Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Dre. My lunchtime is almost over. Gotta go back to work, make this money. But real quick, I want to talk about something now. I've been doing YouTube videos for about 3-4 years. A lot of the subject matter that I've talked about recently has been something that touches upon the impact of black people here in America and American society. My message is well received by some and jeered by others. Needless to say, a lot of whites, not all, but a lot of whites and non-blacks and some coon-ass niggas try to dispute the message. Now, when I make my videos, this isn't coming across as a pro-black, anti-white sentiment, because I have half-white kids. So I can't teach my kids to hate white people when that's part of their ethnic culture. It's ridiculous. But I'll let people continue to think that I hate white people. I'm not going to try to dissuade them simply because if you want to be ignorant, far be it from me to try to dissuade you to latch on to common sense. What I wanted to talk about was this thing called race baiting. When I make my videos, a lot of people will ask me why I'm race baiting. But here's the thing, there's no such thing as race baiting. There simply isn't. White people and non-blacks will typically get very uncomfortable, and I say this, the word uncomfortable, in a lot of my videos. The truth is, black people, when they tell their history from their perspective, and it rewrites white people's history the way it's been smeared and bastardized, white people and non-blacks typically get butthurt. They get very dismissive. They start to deflect, and then of course they call it reverse racism, or they'd say that it's race baiting. There's no such thing as race baiting. If a black person talking about black issues makes a white or non-black person uncomfortable, fuck it. You don't have to be in on part of the conversation. But truth is being brought forth, and unfortunately the truth that white people know, a lot of it is false. It's fictional. The history of blacks coming to this country here in Texas, and I've said this in previous videos, they're trying to rewrite history, saying that the African slave trade was a matter of bringing migrant workers, not necessarily in those words, but that was the implication. They were bringing workers over from Africa to work the fields. They're trying to teach kids here in Texas that maybe slavery wasn't as bad as they think it was. But again, white people in America have never been slaves. This is where the deflection comes in. Someone white, at some point in time on this video, if the conversation heats up, someone white will generally say Irish were slaves. Bullshit. Irish came over as indentured servants. They worked off their debt, and then they became foremans or the right-hand man of slave masters. So they cracked the whips. They decapitated. They killed black men and women. That's the Irish. Now, I'm not putting down all of Ireland. I'm not speaking about all of Irish, but this is the truth. Irish were able to walk around this country freely far longer and far before blacks had that capability. They didn't have to show papers. Once they did serve their time as indentured servants, they were set free. Black people didn't have that. In fact, after the Emancipation Proclamation, there were Jim Crow laws that were put into effect, basically saying that if you were a vagrant, if you didn't have a place to live, you were basically placed in a prison system and you were set to basically work, similar to the shit that they have now. So it was still a form of slavery, and a lot of southern states upheld that, tried to find any little loophole to continue to oppress black people. This is not race baiting. This is a black man speaking on a black subject. It's not disparaging white people. This is simply telling the truth. And as I may have said, and I'll say it again, the Honorable Leo Muhammad, he said, if you throw a brick into a pack of dogs, the dog that gets hit will bark the loudest. They'll bark and bark and bark. That brick is called truth. So when you hurl truth into a pack of people that don't like to hear it, but they get hit with the truth, they'll clap back. That's generally what happens with my videos, and that's typically why a lot of whites and non-blacks will say that it's race baiting. But again, black people telling black history is always perceived as a threat. That's why motherfuckers become very uncomfortable. Jesse Williams stood on the stage at the BET Awards and talked about this black truth, and look at the outcome. Motherfuckers such as Tommy Lauren, which she's a racist, whether she wants to acknowledge it or not, she's a racist. You had a lot of white people that were pissed off saying, well, he's getting paid white money, he should keep his mouth shut. You always want to silence black people when they talk about their oppression, but you never silence the Jews when they speak upon the Holocaust. So why should you try to silence black people for speaking on what they've experienced and are experiencing? I refuse to be silenced. In this video, because I do have white friends, this is not to offend my white friends. It's not really to offend anyone white. The truth should never offend anyone. But at the same time, I'm not going to pander to my white audience and my white friends simply because I'm not Amos and Andy. I'm not stepping and fetch it. I'm not going to buck dance. I'm not going to coon for anyone, whether you're a friend or not. I'm here to speak my truth from my perspective. Because as a YouTuber, a black YouTuber, I'm regularly told to go to Africa, go back to Africa. I'm regularly called a nigger. These things don't negatively affect me. But some whites and non-blacks refuse to accept the fact that I have to teach my kids about the evil of racism and white supremacy because my kids are biracial, but they will more than likely identify as black. Not because I'm asking them to, I'm just teaching them that's who they are. So when they hear the word nigger, they'll understand the impact, because when someone says that, they could be speaking about their father. And my kids understand to tune into that and understand to speak out. That's what I teach my kids, is not to accept hatred and racism. I certainly don't teach my kids to hate. I just teach them to be aware that it exists, and at some point in time, it's going to impact them. So again, there's no such thing as race baiting. The only people that claim that, unfortunately, are whites and non-blacks. Anyway, if you like this video, I hope that you like, subscribe, and share. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook. Peace.